Welcome, everyone. We are live. This is going to be a good old-fashioned debate, a one-on-one debate, and I'm hosting this one on the TFE channel, so we will have no more audio issues. My apologies on that with the last debate against Nathan Thompson. That was on my end, just a lack of understanding on the tech side for all these different moving parts. So audio should be great for today. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to this, as have I. Stephen Alonzo has kind of made a name for himself in the flat earth space, but especially in regards to the final experiment. So just so everyone knows, this is not a debate that I asked for or sought out. It was actually suggested by someone who is a fan of Stephen's and told me that he would like to see me debate Stephen. I think Stephen knows him, or they're at least connected online. And I said, sure, no problem. And then Stephen agreed, and here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Stephen on. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Will?
Great. Thanks for being here. And why don't you just go ahead and start by introducing yourself, talk about your, credentials and accomplishments and whatever you want to say, so people know exactly who you are.
So I'm Stephen Alonzo. A lot of you probably know me mostly from Facebook, but also YouTube as well, which has been where most of my content has been. I got into flat earth about 5 years ago, but only 2 years ago did I feel comfortable to start teaching it. I noticed major problems within the flat earth community, and Will and I are going to be discussing that later. But a lot of the stuff that they would deny, I thought, why are they denying it if it makes perfect sense on flat earth? So I founded the Flat Earth University, put some free programs together to start teaching people the flat earth model that I believe is the most realistic representation and the most cohesive, explanation for all of phenomenon. My educational background is in computer science. So that was when I was younger, maybe 2012 to 2016, did my undergraduate. And then September of last year, I earned my PhD in geocentric cosmology. That is through the Flat Earth University. Now with that, my dissertation, my original contribution to the field was with the Firmament Trackers app. My original contribution was with the multi-observers at once. So prior to my contribution, astronomy software could only have one observer at a time. And we can discuss that more as well, but that's a pretty good introduction to who I am. I run the Flat Earth University. I have the Flat Earth Science textbook, and I made the Firmament Trackers Flat Earth app. Those are my ways to give back to the community, and you can download it for free.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction. So, Stephen, I need to tell you something which is going to be super important so that you understand where I'm coming from and so that the audience understands where I'm coming from. I was convinced, and by the way, let me just get this out. You don't need to respond while I'm saying it, because it's kind of a little bit long-winded, but it's important. There have been multiple people over the years that have trolled the flat earth community. So probably the one that people know the most would be Logan Paul. He trolled the flat earth community, ended up making a YouTube video / short documentary about it. Jimmy Kimmel did it. Tyler, I think his name is Tyler Oliveira. He did it. Another guy who I don't remember his name did it to Nathan Thompson. And so I don't like people that troll the flat earth community, because what they're doing is they're acting like they're flat earth in order to get into their inner circle, in order to record them and just try to essentially make fun of them. So I don't like that. Now, I was convinced until 2 days ago that you were trolling the flat earth community. And so I was going to ask you if you wanted to come out and say that you were trolling the flat earth community. But
no,
Yeah, so I don't believe that anymore. I
Yeah, that's what I'm
decided
curious about.
Yeah, I decided to look into you a little bit more, and I'm really glad I did that because I became convinced that you are not trolling the flat earth community. I found things that I thought that I've only ever seen in the flat earth community. And so I'm glad that I did that extra research. Now, why this discussion has a personal connection and importance for me is people who have been following TFE, they know that I got into flat earth because of a friend of mine. Her name is Wendy. And Wendy has been convinced by your model. So she still believes that your model solves these issues. And so, as far as I can tell, she's still flat earth even after the final experiment. And so that's important to me because you're now in the way, so to speak, of her leaving flat earth, which is what I think she needs to do. So let's go ahead and have a conversation. I do, again, I don't think you're trolling. I do think you're a genuine flat earther, but I do think there are things with you and your model that aren't forthright. And I think that will come out in our discussion.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I was just thinking you were going to originally ask me, "Am I trolling?" But that caught me off guard. How you did research, and I think you're being serious. That you do think I actually believe what I'm saying, and that is important. That'll make the communication we're going to have a lot clearer. And as you know, I agree with 100% of your observations. Meaning, this kind of is more of an epistemological debate about which model best describes reality. You believe that your interpretation is the only correct one, and you will defend that. Whereas I do believe both interpretations are valid, but that when correctly interpreted, we find that the results better match the North Polar AE projection rather than an oblate spheroid projection. So science operates under the philosophy of falsifiability. Scientific theories are never proven in an absolute sense. They are only supported by evidence and can potentially be disproven by new data. Science relies on empirical observation and hypothesis, which are both inherently fallible. So any conclusion, including yours and mine, can always be overturned by future evidence. So instead of proving things, science refines hypotheses through repeated testing. The goal for my flat earth science is to continually move forward without contradicting the past. We still live on the Gleason map, much in the same way that you guys could relate to classical mechanics, Newtonian, evolving to Einsteinian relativity without anything Newton did being disproven. So that's why a lot of you guys know that I stand firm on what I said a few months back, that Mark Sargent and David Weiss are still correct and all their work's valid. They were only operating from a 2D framework, and they didn't have access to the 3D model I made to correctly understand what I call dome refraction. So I'm just going to quickly just show this only image here, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. If they could not see this prior to TFE, and they had no way to know better. So I'm not saying anything prior to me is wrong. I'm improving on it. And I hope that from that, we can find out that we still live on the Gleason map and that nothing changes.
Okay, cool. So, Stephen, one of the most important observations / experiences / data that we have for the final experiment is actually a flight. And so there was a flight that Critical Think took on his way home from Antarctica, where he flew from Santiago, Chile to Sydney, Australia nonstop. And that flight was a little over 13 hours long. I would like to know what your thought is on that flight, how you think that flight is possible on a flat Earth, but more importantly, how you think that flight is possible on the Gleason's map.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people know that I believe we have an ether fluid framework that all matter essentially travels through, and it's within a dome structure. And the reason why this matters is that ether compresses measurements. It's called the Lorentz length transform. This is a real thing that special relativity would use. Now, I don't fully agree with that, so I reinterpret it to a way that works on the Gleason map. So I'm not sure if you remember TFE challenge number 1. Let me just see if I can put it up on the screen so people have an idea of what I'm talking about. I want to share challenge number 1. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can make it so you can still see my face. Wonderful. So what I did because of your challenge is I had to derive a formula using planar trigonometry. Now that's very important to understand, because with planar trigonometry, we are actually measuring distances on a flat surface, unlike the Haversine formula, which I wanted to make sure to show so that people know the difference. It's not as simple as just saying Steve used the Haversine formula. It's no, Steve is using planar trigonometry. And then to deny it, you got to go more advanced and look at the ether, the implications beyond that. But the practical approach is that the farther you get south, distances compress. So I actually believe if we could go up in space and look down, you would see Australia exactly like that. But because of the etheric compression, measurements end up exactly the same as the globe. So it's really hard to tell the difference from flights alone.
Okay, cool. So I do want to get back to your submission for TFE challenge number 1, but this is a very specific flight. So if a pilot was going to make a flight plan for that flight using that map behind you, what exactly would that look like?
You would have to, I guess, graph out the gradient compression to know the shortest distance. So it's no longer as if you're being on a sphere doing like a geodetic survey where the great circle is the straightest line. On flat Earth, you need to see where the etheric compression is the least. So because we have a parabolic dome, if you're right at the north, it's going to be a very different compression than if you're flying around there. So what happens is pilots will plot a flight pretty much the exact same as if it was a globe. So it's going to not be a straight line because the distance is shortest that way. There's too much ether here, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How would you know, like how would the pilot know to have enough fuel though?
Well, distance,
for that flight?
Depending on what the distance is.
And how do they calculate the distance?
With the Lorentz latitude distance formula. So you have two options. You can use a globe Haversine if you want, but you can also use the flat Earth model. And what I found was that the difference was only about, or is it the first slide where the distances are shown? Yeah, it's only about 20 kilometers difference. So that alone over these massive flights, I can't really tell the difference of which formula is more accurate. Should we use the flat Earth Lorentz latitude distance formula, which is number 2, or should we use the globe Haversine distance formula? So I guess with your final experiments, I was kind of hoping you would be letting us have that data. So for the predictions made, we could then see which model is more accurate. For example, the flight from Los Angeles, is it actually 8,928 or is it 8,972? So we don't really know yet, but I'm hoping if you're able at some point to release that data, we could possibly then figure out what model aligns best to reality. But at the moment, they both work fine.
Okay, now when you say distances are compressed, what does that mean?
It's a Lorentz length contraction. So I guess there's two ways of looking at it. So, in general relativity, you can go so fast that time slows down. There's a kinematic equivalence to that. So a lot of us don't at all believe in general relativity. The way to look at it is that the coordinate system is expanding or contracting. So either time speeds up. Me personally, that makes no sense. I don't believe time can change. I do believe that physical distances, though, can compress under ether. Scientifically, this is the Lorentz ether length transform. You can Google that quickly, or anyone in the audience can, to know that it's actually real. The problem is, or where we can debate about, is my application of the Lorentz length transform.
Yeah. Now I do think there's some serious issues with your formula, which we'll get to. But the issue I'm having here is I personally know 3 pilots. Okay, one of them works for Southwest Airlines, so they're very serious pilots.
Yeah, commercial license.
Yeah, definitely. And as you know, I was trying to find a flat Earth pilot to try to understand, because when I talk to the pilots that I know, they are using the globe for flight planning. They're not using any of the things that you're talking about. And so do you know a flat Earth pilot?
No. So it's called a CPL. You'd lose your commercial pilot license if you did what I did and publicly spoke. You could probably find people with a PPL, the private pilot license, they would talk to you, but a commercial one, it's a financial. So that's the problem. In mainstream capitalism, we are blackmailed financially. If you say the wrong thing, unless you're like me and you're self-employed, it's different. But most people have licenses. You with your financial licenses, you could lose that if you do the wrong thing. So it's very hard to find that in this modern day right now. Sadly, we're a persecuted minority group.
That makes sense. And if you recall, I also said I would speak to a retired flat Earth pilot. So do you know any retired flat Earth pilots?
No, I don't know. I also don't know how pensions work either, if it's possible to lose that.
Okay.
You have to see how they benefit from talking to you and see if it's a win-win for both of you. I don't have a commercial license, so it's hard for me to empathize fully with them. But the way I view it is, if I had some type of license that I could lose by speaking, I wouldn't want to.
I see. So, Stephen, again, I'm glad that I did more research into you, because then I discovered I don't think you're a troll. But in my extra research, I came to the conclusion that I actually think you're an imposter. And that's the best word I can come up with. In my research, I went to Amazon and I typed in your name.
Yes.
And the first thing that came up is Flight to Truth, A Pilot's Journey to Flat Earth. And that's you.
Yes.
And so in this book, you claim to be a pilot.
Yes. Now, that's a very good thing to point out. So let me share what I want to then show you. So as you know, I'm an author. I have several income streams. That is one of several books. So if you can see the screen I'm sharing right now, I have a book called The Bun in His Oven. It's about male pregnancy. As a lot of you guys don't know, men have to go through pregnancy, and we often aren't appreciated for the struggle that we have. So I wrote a book about me as a man, the tale of male maternity. Let's also take a look. Oh, and just so you know, these are actual books. You didn't want to click it to show them it, because you know it would disprove your argument. But I am an author with several books. Let me see if I can expand this. So I also wrote one called The Encyclopedia of Woke. I have about 10 different books. So you might not want to click where it says Stephen Alonzo at the top, because it'd ruin your argument. But you'll get to see that I have about 10 fictional books that are not used at all for teaching. And it's free. That's just for fun.
Okay, so here's the issue that I'm having, is that I read your book, and I've also found comments you've made online, even recently, where you're claiming to be a pilot and that you were a pilot. And so I fear that you're an imposter and that you never were an actual pilot.
So you'd want to look at the groups that I said that in. So I belong to both globe groups, where it is just globe trolls, they're being toxic, and flat earth groups. So if it's a flat earth group, like the firmament trackers that you are in, that I'm an admin of, with 28,000 people, I've never said that at all. Now, if it's a globe group where people are saying, Stephen, you should kill yourself, you should die, you're a terrible person, it's different for them. The content is more about engaging with them and trying to get the genuine people to come to the real groups. So look at where it was posted.
Okay, now, am I hearing you right, that you were never a pilot?
No, of course not.
Okay. I appreciate that because your book claims that you were, and it claims that that's actually how you came to be flat Earth was by being a pilot.
Correct, but I have books that say as a man I can get pregnant. It's non-fictional, especially that outfit. Like no one dresses like that to be serious.
Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate clearing the air because I contacted people that have interacted with you, and they told me that you actually told them you were a pilot, that you answered questions, and so I'm glad that we can definitely clear the air there.
Yeah, it depends which group. So there are Facebook groups where like they're very toxic, and it is just for trolling. There's no actual genuine discussion like what goes on in the Firmament Trackers group that you're a part of. If you see the difference between a moderated flat Earth group and an unmoderated flat Earth group where it's only trolling, I participate in both because I actually genuinely enjoy the discussion, the psychology of it. It's very interesting. So I want to know why a glober would self-identify as a glober, and oftentimes they only are attracted to the ridiculous stuff. You have to dress up as a pilot to get their attention. But that's not for teaching flat Earth. So flat Earth science, like this, is something completely different. It's an actual academic book. So there's a difference between fiction books and non-fiction books.
Okay, cool. So let's go back to your submission, which give me 1 second. Oh, this is very annoying. Hold on. It looks like I have to stop sharing and reshare each time. So 1 second. Okay, here it is. All right, so this is your challenge that you submitted for the TFE, the 3 challenges that I gave out prior to us going to Antarctica. And
now that one, there's an amendment. Let me just check to see the difference.
Okay, and if you'd
there was
like,
something wrong with it.
That's okay. And if you like, you could email me the amendment right now, and I can pull it up. But our first conversation that we're going to have about this is going to have nothing to do with anything that you amended.
Okay, yeah, the amendment was published December 22nd when I reviewed the math, but I'll have mine up on screen and I'll see if I notice any errors in yours.
Okay, cool. So the first thing I noticed in your math was this very strange number of 6,371 kilometers, which just happens to be the average radius of the Earth. And so my first thought was that you're cheating and that you're kind of sneaking in globe math into your flat Earth math. And then you told me, either in an email or in a Facebook post, that the reason that number was in your formula was because it's the height of the firmament.
Correct.
So here's my question for you, which is, what does the height of the firmament have anything to do with planes flying through the air?
The amount of ether. That's similar to what I said before. So remember how we live under a dome? The compression that happens on the South Pole is completely different than the compression that happens at the North Pole. So the height, I actually played around with that height. I could raise it and lower it, but the problem was the results didn't match what we actually observed in reality. Like I have friends in Australia who can drive across the country and measure the distances. So we kind of knew what a wrong and right answer would be. So this kind of had to be the height of the formula given the real life observations that we observe.
How did you get the height of the firmament? Because I've never seen the firmament.
Well, it's derived from the observations. So if I chose a different, so example, I started, let's say 1,000 kilometers. At one point, I thought the height was a lot smaller. I had 2 different heights at one point. It wasn't until your challenge that I realized the ether actually matters for distances. And that's why I had to raise the height. I think, or it was in miles before. I might have had it at 6,000 miles, and now it's at this in kilometers, 6,371 kilometers. I think those are the 2 differences. But the reason why is that I found out through your challenge, my previous model was wrong. So that's why I always talk about the scientific method. We make a hypothesis, we attempt to falsify it. And thanks to TFE number 1, I then learned that the height of the firmament is actually that, and my previous one is wrong.
Okay, got it. So it's interesting because I think you might be the first person ever to figure out the height of the firmament.
No, who is it? What's the guy's name? Shane and Alan use it, but it's from another guy before where he derived the radius of the Earth from the wavelength of light. So I've seen people do that before as well, where if you get a wavelength of light under certain situations, you can derive that radius as well. So I've seen other methods. You want me to put it up on screen quickly, or is it just not really?
No, I've just I've never found a flat earther that said definitively the firmament is exactly this height. And so that's what I'm saying. You might be the first.
Well, it's not definitively. As I said, this is my hypothesis right now. So I'm always open to I want my model to be falsified so I can then move forward and figure out the correct stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So right now, I do think that's the height. Yes, right now, this height works perfect for everything. And I have no reason to change it.
Well, I can tell you that calculating flight distances will only work with the radius value of the Earth. And so if you change it, they're not going to work anymore. And so I think it's a pretty wild coincidence that the height of this so-called firmament is exactly the radius of the Earth.
Well, that's what happens if you wrap a flat Earth into a ball. You're going to end up with much of the same dimensions, especially along the latitude.
Yeah, but the height of the firmament would not have anything to do with wrapping a flat Earth around a ball.
Yeah, you can stretch it out to do that. Let me see if I can show you the math for that. Wrapping the flat Earth into a globe. So all of this is on my website. Let me just see if I can save the image instead of the whole website to put up. Let me get rid of these images, sorry. Yeah, a lot of my nonfiction books are all free. So anyone who wants to learn about these fiction books, check them out on Amazon. But let me get the why I did what I did here. So this seems to make sense to me. Whether you have a flat Earth or a globe, you're going to have this same kind of results. Does that make sense what you're seeing on screen? You're going to have a diameter, and you're still going to have a diameter. You're going to have a radius, which can become the firmament height. What's actually interesting to me is that the firmament has two values on the flat Earth model, where the globe only has one, which implies to me that the final result is more fixed. Like this is how it has to be.
Gotcha. It's okay. I don't get it, but it's okay because your math is definitely flawed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here on what you sent me. And I'm going to go down to the Sydney calculations, which you can see on the screen. And you'll notice there, your final result was 11,027.9 plus 3,417.4 equals 11,327.9. So this is just bogus math.
Yeah, that was a typo.
That's a big typo.
Yeah, now you have to see the full work on something else, but let me just show you what the actual one could be. That's why I recommend you guys go to the website to get the updated stuff, because I fixed this all when I reviewed it. But let me just show you the same calculation, how it would correctly look. Let me see.
Okay, so I see some problems here. Here, let me do this. I'm going to take mine off to make yours bigger.
Yeah.
Is this Sydney?
Yeah, this is for Sydney. Yeah, yeah. So the same number you're looking at in yours, 6.42 would be the same.
Okay, great. So the compensation, which is the third from the bottom, that has to do with your etheric compensation, if I recall.
Yes.
That number you just you just reduced it to what you needed. You see?
No, I don't.
Your etheric scaling.
Mm-hmm.
You just here, do this. Can you pull up London?
London. Yes. London spreads across 2 pages, but I think I can still make it fit. Let me just see.
The bottom is what matters.
Okay.
Okay, got it. So you did it again here, and then
So it's the same formula. It's the same for all calculations in the world. That's why I believe it's more accurate, because it works no matter where you are. Even when you emailed me asking for the local one in like Boulder, it seemed to work for that as well.
We'll get to that one next. Can you pull up Atlanta real quick?
Yes. Atlanta is 6.2.
Okay. All right, great. And then lastly, which is what I want to talk about, can you pull up the Denver Boulder one?
Yeah, now that's not on this sheet then. Let me
That's
see.
okay.
No, I can still get it though. I have it, I think. That would be TFE number 1. No, I actually can't find the Denver Boulder one. I don't think I put that to my website.
Okay, I'll pull it up.
Okay, cool.
Oops, that's not it. 1 second. Okay, here it is. Okay. Here is the Denver Boulder one. I found some more bad math there. The etheric scaling, 2801.81 times 32.26 divided by 5,000 equals 7.54. That's not correct. It doesn't equal 7.54.
You sure?
Yeah. You want to grab a calculator?
Yeah, I was going to text that. 32.26
Yes.
divided by 5,000 times that by 2,000.81 equals 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wrong. Yeah, you're right. That's wrong.
Okay. So as I went through this, I didn't understand everything, obviously. But the pieces that stood out to me were math issues. Now, you said you made corrections on the other one. I never knew that. So I'm glad you're telling me now.
Yeah, so there might still be ones here that I'd want to review. What matters though is the full work, not what I copied down from the papers. Let me show you on my screen how it actually expands out. So this is, now let me see, did I do this math wrong as well? Yeah, I still have the 7.45 there. So that is wrong. That should be 18.
Okay. So let me tell you what I think is significant is if there is a debate going on between two people, as significant as we live on a globe or we live on a flat earth, the way to settle the debate is to find where there are differences. And the things that you kept submitting were not very different from the globe model.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me that these two ideologies are so diametrically opposed to each other, but you keep giving me things that are so close to the globe model. So what I did to prepare for our debate is I tried to find something, which I found, that you and I would agree is completely different on the two models.
Okay.
And that is a geographic South Pole.
Yeah, it would be slightly different.
Well, it would be very different because on the globe model, there is only one geographic South Pole. And then in your model, you said there's an infinite number of South Poles.
Yeah, but the South Pole magnetically is the same as the geographic South Pole, which is a single physical location. So when you asked me to find where it actually is, I then had to assign a location to it on my model. So that's it up here. Now, where it is would be longitude 139 degrees west. So on the Gleason map behind, that's right about here. Now, the reason for that is that's how people get there from New Zealand. So I had to look at the most realistic spot for where it'd be, and that is it. Now, what you're right, though, about where we absolutely would disagree is the exact location. You're going to believe it's at 9 degrees south latitude, whereas I believe it's at 89.999 degrees south latitude. Now, the only way to tell that apart would be to look up at the South Celestial Pole and I guess have measurement devices that can confirm it is actually 90 degrees and not just 89.99 degrees.
Okay, so we'll get to the South Celestial Pole in a bit, but when it comes to this geographic South Pole, I was not expecting any flat earther, but I wasn't expecting you especially to say there's an infinite number of geographic South Poles. So
no, not geographic South Poles. There's only one geographic South Pole. There's an infinite magnetic South Pole.
Yeah,
the South Pole is a magnetic point. The geographic, there's only one.
I'm talking about geographic South Pole only.
Yeah, there's just one.
And you're saying there's only one on a flat Earth?
Correct. One on a flat Earth, one on a globe as well. I assume they're at similar locations. You'd head south of New Zealand.
Okay, so you're saying the geographic South Pole on a flat Earth is south of New Zealand?
Roughly. You'd go down. So the exact longitude is 139 west. That's what I put in my model. That's the visualization up on screen. So it's going to look different depending on how you're looking at it. But you'd head south, southeast of New Zealand to get there?
Okay, gotcha. Perfect. And then is that where you're saying the South Pole Research Station is located?
Yes. I think it's called Amson Scott. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, that's close enough.
Yeah, that's it though. That's where it'd be.
Okay, great. So I'm glad you are stating this. This is very important. There is a company called White Desert. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, they do Wolf's Fang runway, I think.
Very good. I'm impressed. Yes, they do. Now, did you know they fly people to the South Pole Station?
No, but I would assume they do. But Wolf's Fang is down here, so I think I know where you're going at. But continue. Yeah.
That's not where Wolf's Fang runway is.
Oh no, they're over here actually.
No, they're not over there. They're actually south of South Africa.
Over here. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So I don't. Can you zoom out a little bit so people can see your map? Yeah. So go ahead and put your finger south of South Africa. Now, it'd be a little bit further up higher. Yeah. Right in there. Something that people don't know about landing at the South Pole is you have to have skis on the plane.
Yes.
So we're talking about very small aircraft, okay? That
not
have
like
skis.
what you landed with at ALE, not in a Boeing.
Correct. We don't have to have skis at Union Glacier.
Okay.
But at the South Pole, you do. So we're talking about very small aircraft. White Desert flies people to the South Pole in about 7 hours to the South Pole Research Station. So if you look back at where you were saying that research station is and where, yes. So how does that work in a small plane going?
So there'd be two options. The latter, I don't really want to believe because that would imply simulation theory. But the former one is that etheric distance I was talking about. So I don't actually think they have their compass at, what would it be? Due south is like 180 degrees. So I don't think they're actually going 180 degrees south. I think they're going 179 degrees south and just wrapping right around. But if that's not the case, and they actually are able to confirm they're going 180 south, that would imply we live in a virtual reality. It means that what they're doing is going that way and popping out right over here. Now, I don't think that's very realistic. I would rather believe that they're just traveling through the ether, going at that exact same speed.
Yeah, so the distance of that flight would be probably on your map, the longest distance of any flight in the world. And it happens in a very short amount of time in a very small plane. And I just don't think that's possible.
It doesn't sound realistic, no.
Okay. I'm glad that you're at least willing to admit that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, there's still a lot to learn about the south and all the technicalities of there. So if they are going 180 degrees due south, that's quite interesting. But even if they are going that way, that's the same ether compression that I believe in.
Okay, cool. When you say 180 degrees south, are you referring to 90?
No, my compass would show 180 degrees if I'm going south. My compass could be wrong, but it's an old analog one. But we have a 0 degrees at the top, 90 degrees east, 180 south, and then 270 west.
Okay. All right. So my next question for you
is all I was trying to say, due south.
Okay. My next question for you is about the South Pole again. So the research station that you mentioned, the Amundsen-Scott Research Station, the reason it's called that is because in 1911, Roald Amundsen and Robert Scott both were trying to become the first men to ever go to the geographic South Pole. Now, Scott did not know that Amundsen was going to do it because he was supposed to go to the North Pole, but he changed his plan, didn't tell anyone except his brother, and did not even tell his crew until it was almost too late for them to turn around, but they all agreed to go with him. So they started in different places, thousands of miles away from each other, and Amundsen beat him there. So he got to the geographic South Pole on December 14th of 1911, and he set up a very small tent with a Norwegian flag on it. And then they left because you have to get out of Antarctica before the Antarctic winter hits or you'll be dead. He never knew if Robert Scott was going to make it. Well, 34 days later, Robert Scott made it to the exact same spot where that little tent was. Do you have any idea how you can start thousands of miles away in Antarctica and end up in the exact same spot back in 1911?
So it's similar to what I said before. Either they are truly circumnavigating, which would mean that we live in a virtual reality and there's popping on the other side, or they're right along the edge. Now, the edge of flat Earth is the exact same speed, apparently, like relative to you, as if you were in the North Pole going around this little tiny circle. So what I think they probably did is got as close as they could to the firmament, like 89.9 degrees. And because of that, it'd be very easy to go very fast around. If the story is true, I want to believe it's true. So if it's true, that's how I think it would work.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's definitely strong evidence that it's true. But my main question for you is how did they get to the same spot? There was nothing there.
Oh, that's celestial navigation. So the South Celestial Pole, you can always look at that. And the next question you're going to say is, how do they know where to go? Well, that's the longitude. So you may have never seen multiple observers before because you can't really do it on the globe. So you have to like stitch two stellariums together. But what matters though is the orientation will be offset. So right here, these are two South Celestial Poles. You have Chile and New Zealand. The circle is showing where the Southern Cross is. So that is how we can have an infinite amount of South Celestial Poles. You can have 1 million because longitude is a continuous coordinate system. And based on what part of the firmament you're looking at, it's extremely easy to know where you are in the world. So that is how, if they were trying to meet up, they would have done the same way everyone has always done celestial navigation, either with the North Celestial Pole or the North Celestial Pole, which is Polaris.
Okay, cool. So here's the issue. I've studied your model. Now, by the way, we'll get to the South Celestial Pole. They would not be able to use that because they were finding the geographic South Pole in the summer and they had a 24-hour sun. So does that give you any clues as to how they found the geographic South Pole?
If it's in the summer and there's the sun, that would then be interesting. There might have been day stars they could see. For example, you know how we, like up in the north, we can see Venus very, very bright in the day. Maybe that's what they saw. Because with stars, the exact same concept applies. We know how offset the star is from the North Celestial Pole, and we can always find our way. So that is how it would have been done in the day. And it would have been very clever as well if that is what they were doing. But I actually don't know how they did it. I haven't looked into it.
Yeah, no problem. So Robert Scott ended up dying, but we recovered his body and his journal entries. We were able to read what he did. Amundsen survived and wrote a book about it. So they used celestial navigation, but they used it with the sun only. And so they would take sun elevation angle measurements every day, every hour, so 24 per day. And the lowest elevation angle was south, and they would go in that direction.
That makes sense.
Here's the problem with your model, which I've looked at. If two people were in different locations on your model in Antarctica, and they followed the direction where the sun has the lowest elevation angle, they'll actually be going away from each other. They would never go to each other.
You're right. So the difference then, you'd have to then look at something else. So you'd have to look at maybe sunspots or the time of day. Those would be the two variables you'd have to play with, because the sun's still circling around every 24 hours. So that's what you'd have to play with if they were doing celestial navigation with the sun.
Okay, cool. I'm really glad that you admitted that, by the way, because this, I do think, is a very significant issue with your model. Is back in 1911, two men, they started at different times, thousands of miles apart, ended up in the exact same spot. By the way, that's stunning. So Antarctica is 1.5 times the size of the United States. And Robert Scott ended up where a tiny, small tent was 34 days later because they followed the same celestial navigation. On a globe, following celestial navigation will bring you to the same spot, which is the South Pole. On a flat Earth, including your model, it'll send them further and further away from each other.
Correct. No, you're right on that.
Okay, I appreciate your honesty.
But I don't think that's what they did, though.
Okay, but well, by the way,
you're right. They would have went in completely separate directions, but I believe they used sunspots and the timing of the sun to correctly navigate. Because the sunspots still move, similar to how you could use the South Celestial Pole and what I was saying with the Southern Cross. You can look at the sunspots as well. And
so I was reading in Amundsen's book about what they did to protect their eyes from the brightness of the snow. And they had like leather with little slits in it to just let in just a little bit of light so they wouldn't get snow blindness. I have no idea how they were looking at sunspots back in 1911.
Correct. So if the story is true, it does cause a problem for my understanding of how they would navigate. So that's something I definitely want to look into, because on my model, I did put 3 little dots for sunspots. So I can kind of play around with it and see if what I'm saying is even true. I never really attempted this yet, but you've given me now a project to attempt, and you'll see the results in the Firmament Trackers Facebook group.
Okay, awesome. Let's get to the South Celestial Pole. So we conversed on this, and again, you said there's an infinite number of South Celestial Poles.
Yes.
And one of the things, if you want me to pull it up, I can. But one of the things that we talked about was you said that, I believe you said that no one would ever have the South Celestial Pole directly above them.
Correct. And I don't believe that. So because 90 degrees south would mean the firmament is crushing you. It's not possible to actually go to 90 degrees south. As I said earlier, I do believe they're at 89.99 degrees. Now, we can't use GPS to verify that because GPS is closed source. I tried to look into it to see if we could look into it, and it's only an appeal to authority logical fallacy. So what I said is we need to look for the South Celestial Pole angle. If that is exactly 90 degrees, then they are at 90 degrees south latitude. But I think it's actually 89.99 degrees.
Okay, do you remember why you told me no one could have the South Celestial Pole directly above them?
No.
Okay, I don't either. 1 second.
Bring it up though. Yeah, I can clarify if I said something weird.
Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm starting to remember now. So let me pull this up. Okay. What I said to you was that there is only one place that you would have the South Celestial Pole directly above you. And
Correct.
you did admit if that was true, then your model would be falsified.
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, so of all of the people that have been to Antarctica, which is countless, who knows how many, and all of the photographers and video and pictures, there is only one place that anybody has ever been able to film the South Celestial Pole above them, and that is at the geographic South Pole.
Oh,
So
so
no
what you,
matter,
I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, like if I was to go 1 degree away, the the geographic South Pole would still be within the area. Yeah, I
yeah,
think I
what
know
I'm
what you're saying.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that of all the people that travel to Antarctica, regardless of where they go, whether they start in Africa, whether they start in South America, whether they start in New Zealand, the only place that you can film the South Celestial Pole directly above you is at the geographic South Pole. And so I do think that that fact alone also falsifies your model.
Well, are we able to go though to anywhere else? Because the way I understand it is they have like the area set up where if you want to go to 90 degrees, it's this specific zone, and they have like red markers and bamboo poles, I think, at the geographic pole. Like you can't go past an area. So I don't know how the permitting works, but if like you wanted to go here and head south, would you be allowed to just stop somewhere there? And because as you said, you need special runways. So what you're saying makes sense. If there's only one place that's possible to land on, and that's the only tourist or research area around 90 degrees south, like if they have nothing at 88 degrees south, then yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just so you know, and I'm sure you know this, but people make solo trips in Antarctica every year. They try to, go to the South Pole by themselves. They try to cross Antarctica by themselves. And so we have so many people that are there. They're freely and privately and independently traversing Antarctica.
Yes.
And the only place that anyone has ever seen the South Celestial Pole directly above them is at the geographic South Pole.
But how would you tell the difference? Like, do you mean they're showing you a video of them at the geographic South Pole and pointing it up? That's what you mean? Like,
Yes,
there'd be
that's
no
right.
way for you to take a video without it and point it up. That's kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying if you film the night sky anywhere else in Antarctica, you don't have the South Celestial Pole directly above you.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. The South
I
Celestial
agree with you, though, at the geographic South Pole, you can. But what you're trying to say is that regular people should be able to have gone to other places, and because they haven't, only your interpretation is right. That's the logical fallacy that I'm not following. But I agree with you that, yes, people do go to the geographic South Pole and take photos. What I disagree with is that it's impossible to go to other places and get that same photo. So I believe you could, on the opposite side of the geographic pole, go to 89.99 degrees, look up, and get the exact same photo that you got over there. The only difference would be you don't have that geographic marker around you. But I don't know why people would do that. Like for me, if I'm going to go to the South Pole, I'm going to the Amundsen Scott Station. I'm not going to mess around over here where there's nothing. So I think that's the problem. You're expecting a photo that no one wants to do or even can do. I don't know if there's set up here to go. Like if you want to, can you? 88 degrees at 0 longitude. How would you?
Yeah, it would obviously be very easy for a flat earther to refute this because on the globe model, the only place you can be at the GP, the ground position of the SCP, the South Celestial Pole, is at the one and only geographic South Pole.
Yes, what you're saying is true if the angle above is actually 90 degrees. If it is directly above you, instead of being an arc second off, which is what I believe it is, you would be right. But we need a way to measure the difference between 90 degrees and 89.999 degrees. And I don't think science has advanced to the point. Like, that's why people still are debating flat Earth. Science is so young, and we don't have the tools to measure this stuff yet.
Gotcha.
I don't think we can.
Okay. All right. So something else that I think is important, Stephen, and again, I'm bringing this up because I feel like flat earthers have been duped by you and believe you. And again, I'm defending you on one side of the coin by saying you're not trolling. But on the other side of the coin, I do think that you are an imposter. And so I have some issues that I'd like to bring up right now with the Flat Earth University.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to share my screen here again. Okay. So the first thing that I noticed is your credentials. And it says here that you got a Bachelor of Computer Science from the University of Waterloo, a Master of Computer Science from Queen's University, and a PhD from York University.
The PhD from York is not true.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Because I could not find evidence of any of that.
Yeah, so I don't post information that would allow people to actually like dox me, call up my professors, because as you know, we've received death threats and we are a persecuted minority group. So the information there is vague, but it's the best that I can actually give people.
Okay. Yeah, I even searched for your dissertation there, Human Emotions in Large Language Models, Silicon versus Carbon, and I just couldn't find it.
Correct. None of my past academic papers will ever be public for people. Because I don't want them calling up York University saying, hey, Stephen Alonzo, whatever.
Okay. Sorry, I got to get better at presenting here.
No.
Let's see here. There was some more here.
Yeah,
Okay.
The about section, there's probably going to be something. I think I know where you're going.
Well, this one here says that you've held faculty positions at several universities. I couldn't find any evidence of that.
Correct.
It also says that you've authored numerous papers in leading computer science journals. I couldn't find one of those. It also says you hold several patents. I couldn't find a single patent.
There's one that is public.
Okay. And then
say it on the show though.
Okay. And then it also says that you received the Excellence in Teaching Award from Queen's University and the Distinguished Researcher Award from York. I got the list of the winners of those, and you weren't there listed in either of those. Okay. And then the next one here, let's see here. Okay. So this one was a little bit concerning to me, which was another professor at the school, Professor John M. Anderson. I have a feeling this is a fake person.
Oh yeah, correct.
Okay. Yeah, because it also listed his credentials, which I could not find, claimed he had a PhD from Stanford.
Yeah, these were all AI teachers. There's another one, Dr. Mei Lei Zhang. That was when I was originally setting up the Flat Earth University, but it made more sense to have the students interacting with me directly. So none of those professors actually teach the courses anymore. So you can enroll now in FE 101 or FE 102, and you'll be assigned me directly as your professor.
Okay, but Professor John M. Anderson's not a real person.
Oh, no. I just got the license to use that through the clothing deal. If you notice they're wearing my clothing, that's the company that provided me to use those.
Got it.
So they're not real people at all, no.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful because, again, people have unfortunately fallen for this and they think that it's all real.
Oh, I'd hope not. So I'm the professor at Flat Earth University. I'm the one who will actually be teaching people.
Okay, great.
There's a lot of stuff from 2023 when I first started it and didn't really have funding, didn't know what I was doing. So that link there, I don't think is actually public on the website. It'd be an old page that's probably still archived by Google. That's how you would have found it.
Gotcha. Then there's this one here, which is the San Pedro campus.
Yes.
I noticed that the picture there is actually the government building in Santiago, Chile.
Correct. So that's actually the banner image for all our pages, not just this one. So if
Okay,
you click like I think students, I think the banner image will be the same as well.
gotcha. Okay, so there really is no campus then?
Well, the Flat Earth University exists as a business in Belize, and I use it for a lot of my financial purposes. Like we own assets here.
Gotcha, but it's not like a physical campus.
Correct. No, we can't ever have physical campuses due to the threat of hate crimes. That'll never happen for Flat Earth, at least not now in the current state we are in.
Okay.
In the future, it'd be nice if we could have public buildings where people could come in and study and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So we're an online school. If you're not aware, we're an online school.
Okay, cool. Yeah, some people had thought that you were actually had physical locations.
Have they though, or is it only Globers? Have you ever had a flat earther tell you that, or is it only Globers? Because that seems to be the only people that try to make me look bad.
Well, I mean, the website says it, so I wouldn't fault somebody for believing it.
But it should be very obvious. Like I have 400 students right now fully enrolled in the online program, and I never got one email saying, "Hey, where's the campus?" So I hope like it's not flat earthers messaging you, and I'm assuming based on your response, it is only Globers that are saying that. And if so, I'm okay with that.
Okay. One other one here real quick, which I thought was interesting, is you mention here the last sentence of the first section says Flat Earth University serves as the global epicenter for geocentric cosmology.
Now, this is very important because it's a semantic logical fallacy. If people don't understand how a noun and an adjective can be different, that's why it's there. So I've been pointed this out several times, but I'm not changing it because it's very important. In Flat Earth, the meanings of words matter, but in all discussions, the meaning of words matter. So global means a great outreach, a wide audience. It doesn't mean on a physical globe.
I see. Okay.
So you're going to see a lot of that in this site because my whole point is to help make flat earthers smarter. As you know, like there's no reason to deny a 24-hour sun, no reason to deny all that. And it comes down to very silly reasons. And I hope through what I do with this, we're able to teach people in kind of a fun way. So this is the perfect example of how I would teach people about semantic logical fallacies and why the definitions and uses of words really matter.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to make you aware of it as
oh yeah, I know it's there.
Okay. And then this next one here, you actually did post in your group, the Firmament Trackers public group. So
yes.
I noticed, because again, like I was researching you and I just noticed this pattern of you claiming things that I didn't think were true, that didn't seem believable. And this one here, you said in 2020 you did your ISSA certifications.
Yes. Do you want me to get my textbooks?
I called them and they said you never finished and you were never certified.
I don't know why they would say that. I don't even think they're legally allowed to say that.
Well, people want to make sure that the people that are claiming to be ISSA certified are legitimate. So I think they are allowed to do that so that people can't just lie about it. And they definitely said you contacted them about doing the class, but that you never finished it and are not certified.
That's interesting.
So anyway, I do like that you're, take your health seriously. And
yes, I'm down to 20% body fat now. So when I first started this 6 months ago, I was at 25% body fat, 190 pounds. I'm about 164. But it's body fat. And again, flat earth fitness. We're exercising on flat surfaces. So yeah, this is a wonderful program. If anyone's interested, we have a Flat Earth Fitness Facebook group where my work speaks for itself. So I'm not a big credentials guy. I don't want you to believe me because I have a PhD. Believe me because of the science and math, the exercise science, the proof of the results. That's all. Don't ever believe anyone because of a degree or a credential. That's just receipts for tuition.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you still consider yourself a doctor?
Oh, yeah. So to have
Okay.
a doctorate, you have to contribute original work, make an original contribution. Now, if I didn't, then I would feel shameful for referring to myself as that. And to clarify, I'm not a medical doctor. So I don't want anyone to think I'm a medical doctor. A doctorate degree means you make an original contribution to the field. And for me, that was the Firmament Trackers app. Multi-observer software is something that was never done before. As you see, the best globe model possible is what I have above me, and you can only have one observer at a time. So my original contribution, which allowed me to earn my PhD, my doctorate in September of last year, was this software. And I'm really proud of it. You can download it for free, test out the basic features. We have many versions of it. So this is why I earned my doctorate, because even Globe software cannot do multiple observers in real time. They got to do pre-made renders like in Blender, where my software is real time, which is insane that it took a flat earther to do this.
Yeah. Now, I should tell you, Stephen, this is an area, I'm not a doctor. This is not an area I'm very familiar with, but I did have some people contact me when I announced our debate and I made the thumbnail, and they pushed back at you referring to yourself as a doctor. They said that it was disrespectful to people who are actually doctors, who actually got their PhD. And so I do think we should be careful in arguing that if we make an app that's new or novel, that we can call ourselves a doctor.
Well, it depends what field it's in. So I'm not a doctor of philosophy or a doctor of biology. It's geocentric cosmology. So no one should feel offended unless they feel like they work in the same field as I do. And it's not just a new app. It's a whole new entire concept. No one's ever done this before. Like, I don't even think you can do it on a globe. To have multiple observers on a globe, I don't think it's possible, but I'm willing to admit that it's more of a software limitation rather than a modeling issue. But yeah, it's not just an app. It's a whole new way to look at astronomy. No one has ever been able to plot like infinite observers. Let me just see what we have. No, not this one here. Yeah, so the software is just so cool. And that's why with the software, I became so confident that there has to be a 24-hour sun. And I built this myself. So I was able to test what works, what doesn't. And yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you credit. You've done a good job. I think in the past, I'm going to apologize for something. In the past, I accused you of stealing Walter Bislin's model.
You did.
But the reality is, it appears you have not done that. Rather, you have built on top of it and made it better, so to speak.
Well, not even built on top of it. They're entirely different languages. So he did his in JavaScript, and I did mine in TypeScript. So JavaScript, the best way to describe it is we have objects, and it's handled completely different. So I actually don't even understand Walter Bislin's code, and it makes no sense to use someone else's. Anyone who works in software development, like I do professionally, that's where most of my money comes from, software contracts. And that's why I'm very secretive about what I do with Flat Earth and what I reveal to people. But anyone who knows software development knows it's easier to code your own code base than trying to learn someone else's code base. And I've been doing software development for like over 10 years now.
Okay, cool. That is what I had prepared to talk to you about. I do think the issues in the math on the flights and the South Pole, the geographic South Pole, and the single South Celestial Pole directly above it are things that you're going to have to work on. And maybe, as you told me in the past, if I'm right on those, that your model is falsified. So maybe you'll tell me it's falsified.
Yes, but sadly, it's not going to mean Flat Earth, though, is over. There's other communities like the Awake Souls. They have 20,000 subscribers, more influence than me. And they have that model that you showed me with that picture of the stereographic model. They can't develop it out themselves. It'll have to be me who ends up making it for them. But they have it conceptualized, and they have a large following that really believe it. So it would falsify my model. You're right. The Firmament Trackers app would have to be redone or rebranded. The AE model wouldn't work if what you're saying is true. If it's actually possible to go to 90 degrees, look straight up and see it at 90 degrees and not 89.99, that's a huge problem for my model. But that's what's great about science. We form hypotheses that we attempt to falsify, and we move forward to a more refined understanding.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
No, I think we had a really good discussion. In general, I haven't actually looked at the comments. I have this in full screen, but any flat earthers who are wondering like about giving up flat earth, it seems to be now because all the communities are now just, we have no model, earth is measured flat, we make no claims. But that's wrong. We have to make claims, we have to make predictions, and I encourage people to study like flat earth math. There's a reason that most of us in my group knew there'd be a 24-hour sun. You know, these are 90-degree right angles against the flat earth. And go outside, look at the sun. You know, I live in Belize. My north celestial pole is 17 degrees from my horizon. Well, if the sun's behind me, I can start making predictions about places like Union Glacier. So I encourage people to look at the math, do experiments yourself. For flat earth, it's intersectional because it crosses through all these different types of fields.
Got it. I do want to address one more thing because people have contacted me concerned about you selling merch with the TFE logo on it. So, Stephen, I just want to show everyone, for full transparency, our conversation that we had via email.
Yes.
So you reached out to me and you asked if I would want to like split profits with you if you sold TFE merch. And my response was very simple. I said, thanks for reaching out. I didn't create TFE to make money, so I don't think this is a good idea. And now on your website, you say that you have a licensing agreement with me to sell the merch.
Mm-hmm. That's that
now,
bottom email there.
Yeah, the bottom email is you.
Implicit, yeah.
Yeah, the bottom email is you. You picked a charity and you said you were going to donate my shares to charity, and then put on your website that you and I have a licensing agreement, and nothing could be further from the truth. I actually said I didn't want to do it. So I do appreciate you repping the brand here, but that seemed a bit disingenuous to me.
Well, that's why I said, so the reason I have to ask, let you know, is that I cannot legally sell it otherwise. That's why I had to let you know. You could have said no, you didn't. I took that as implicit consent. Because obviously it looks bad if you're telling a flat earther he can sell the merch. So that's why I try to set this up in the way that it'd work out for the both of us, because I do want to promote TFE to the flat earth community. And if they see someone like me wearing this and making documentaries about the science and math that was done, it's really good. But what I said is still true. Anyone who has bought a shirt, I can prove that I'm making that donation if that's the issue.
Yeah, I will say that I'm not upset or anything like that. But I just want to say, I just want you to know how it came across to me. That's all.
Yeah. I tried to set it up in a way that you didn't have to say yes, because it looked bad. Then if I screenshot you saying yes and post it to everyone, and make you look bad and people already like think crazy stuff. So that's why I did the way I did it there.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you being here. I think we had a good conversation, gave people a lot to think about, and people can check you out online if they want to follow up for more information.
Got the links above. Thank you all for joining.
Thanks, man. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I will let people come to their own conclusions. And I also have an announcement to make, which is a couple guys that you're probably familiar with, Craig McNeil, FTFE, and then MC Toon, Michael Toon, are going to be doing an after show about this debate on the FTFE channel in about 15 minutes. So definitely head over there if you want to talk about this and kind of get your opinion out. I also want to tell people that I struggle to multitask. So when I'm talking to Stephen, I can't follow the comments. So if you were commenting and tagging me, my apologies. I didn't see it. If I look at your comments, I won't be hearing Stephen, and that seems disrespectful to me. So I focus on what people are saying, and that's the best I can do. So anyway, if you want to have your voice heard, go ahead and head on over there here in the next 15 minutes. Also, in 45 minutes, I am super excited about this. The next video on our channel in the Final Experiments series is going to premiere on the TFE channel on YouTube. I am personally proud of this one. It is my favorite video we've ever done. It took me a very long time to do it, but I'm super excited about it. And so please watch it. I'll be on the premiere. So if you're commenting during the premiere, I will respond to you. Please share it around. I think it is very powerful and a very strong argument against flat Earth and for the globe. Dare I say, foolproof and bulletproof. But anyway, thanks everyone. I know people were looking forward to this. I enjoyed this very much. It's just all about research and thinking things through and testing ideas, which I think we did. So with that, I'm going to sign off and hope to see everybody soon. So take care. Bye-bye.